Hello to all. My topic is cutting edge biofuel production in European countries. Europe countries are the forefront of advanced biofuel technology and biofuel production in general. Indeed, the biofuel share in the transport sector for Nordic countries is very high compared to the other member states. In Finland, surpassing the average by an at least 5% and Sweden almost reaching 30% in 2018. Such a gap is still evident for 2019, where Finland energy share in transport climbed to 21.3 percentage compared to an EU average of roughly 9 percentage, while Sweden raised its own share to 30 percentage, retaining the highest share in the EU by a wide margin. These huge achievements are also the result of very ambitious policies within Nordic countries, giving rise to a wide array of ventures for advanced biofuel production. Frameworks of Europe. The directive implies demanding goals for the coming years: 35% improvement in energy efficiency, 32 share of renewable in energy consumption within EU by 2030, 14% share of biofuel in transport fuel consumption by 2030, less than 7% food crops as feedstock for biofuel production. Historic data show that principal trade patterns among European countries and between Europe and the rest of the world did not change significantly in the past 2 decades. Alternatively, the freed up land could be used for growing biomass for the heat and power sector. Depending on future regulatory frameworks and economic preferences, advantages these alternative uses may compete with the biofuel feedstock. A prime assumption from the scenarios is that Europe will maintain its current level of self sufficiency for food and feed crops as well as for livestock products. In this sense, scenarios determine the amount of land that could become available without compromising food and feed production. Food first paradigm. The major drivers in the scenarios are projected demographic changes and associated food demand on the one hand, and on the other hand, technologies progress in the agriculture sector for the most part achieved by modest aggregate crop yield increases and feeding efficiency gains in livestock production. And this graph represent the biofuel production from European countries from 2000 to 2020. Crop residues for biofuel production. Factors that determine the amount of residues include crop type and yields, the biomass ratio of crop residues to maintain main produce, and percentage of residues removed from the field for potential use. In the case of cereals, potatoes, and sugar beet line relationships are assumed between the upper and lower bounds of RPR values relative to the yield of the main produce. Food demand in European countries. Historical trends of the Europe Ukraine food consumption per capita were projected into the future for plant food and livestock products from pigs and poultry. For consumption of ruminant livestock production, meat and dairy products, historical data indicate for most countries a modest decline in per capita levels. In the scenario, some further decrease of per capita consumption is projected for Western Europe, whereas current per capita levels were used for Eastern Europe feeding efficiency in livestock production. Feeding efficiency in livestock production. As in the past, monogastric livestock production efficiency is expected to further increase. That is, feed requirements per unit of livestock output are declining and changing in character towards less grazed feed and more cultivated food and feed crops. For the ruminant livestock sector, historical data reveal the increasing intensity in production for the aggregate of European countries. Estimated feeding efficiency of ruminant livestock has decreased slightly over recent years. Aggregate crop yields. The crop sector of a country is described in a comprehension and aggregate form. Aggregation of crop yields and production is achieved through weighting and internship Gary Games prices. Aggregate yield expressed in Gary Games prices. One captures changes of individual crop yields as well as changes in composition of crops and intensity of arable land use. It provides a robust and comprehensive measure a country's change in agricultural land used for food and feed production, which in turn is applied to project extends land potentially feed up for cultivation of biofuel feedstock presents the development of aggregate yields expressed between 1985 and 2002. The picture represents the change in aggregate yields in Europe between 1985 to 2002. Thank you.